Welcome back. Today we'll be painting the new 3rd edition starter set, Bolt Action from Warlord Games. So thanks to my local game shop, Bulwark Games, they've allowed me to take away their demo copy, paint it, and then return it to the store so it can be used by people who want to try the game out. This is a really exciting opportunity for me. I've never painted any Bolt Action or indeed any historical miniatures before, because I've been stuck in my Warhammer bubble for many years. So let's get to it. I'm Dan, and you're watching The Hobby Void. Okay, so this is a really nice box, really nice put together. Quite a thick softback instruction book, game rules, lore, history, and painting guide. Game dice. I'm not going to get into the rules of the game, but yeah, fair enough. Sprues. The sprues are sharp. The plastic's sharp. For someone who's been painting Games Workshop plastic, obviously they're the king of plastic, but these are pretty sharp. Detail's really good. Pleasantly surprised actually. Plenty of them. So 24 miniatures in this. Cardboard tokens as well, and I suppose quite a crude gaming mat, but this is the starter set, so you could upgrade that. So let's just dig into the book a little more. Lovely artwork, some nice kind of dioramas and scenes and things set up there, and obviously the instructions. This colour coding is actually quite useful for putting things together. Now they do recommend Army Painter and Vallejo paints, quite specific about the colours here. I've got some of these, but I haven't got them all, so I'm going to be using some of my existing paint sets to get as close as we can. I appreciate we want to preserve the historical accuracy as best we can. This isn't fantasy. These are established colour schemes. It's smaller than what I'm used to. It's smaller than your typical Space Marine, so my fat fingers did struggle a little bit with some of the parts. Okay, now because this is part of the starter set and it's a demo copy, I built this up exactly as per the starter rules, which are broken down into 6 missions, starting with sort of 3 on 3. Then you build another couple of models from each side, eventually working your way up to mission 6 where you've got them all built. So it does kind of ease you in gently if you're new to the rules. And I'm cheating now, I'm going straight in with the airbrush just for speed to get that primer on. We'll also try and get the main base colour on as well. So I'm just priming in my usual Vallejo black primer, thinned obviously. Now the 2 colours I wanted to get absolutely right, and I did go and buy as per the painting guide, is the US dark green, which is the main uniform colour here that we're just covering with the airbrush for the US Rangers, and then for the German Grenadiers, again German uniform also by Vallejo, just to try and be as true to the correct colours as we can. But the vast majority of all the other colours in this are sort of colour matched approximately. Okay, and there's the main colours on, and that just saves us a bit of time when we're painting larger squads like this. It's not often I paint squads this large. Base coating with some Japanese uniform. And again, just getting those skin details in, rat skin flesh, just to block in all the parts. A little bit of yellow into that original US dark green, just to give the webbing a slightly different colour. Make it a bit more of an olivey green colour. Make it stand out against the green, so it's not just green on green, and you can't really see the difference. That webbing is fine as well. That's a brush with a good point needed on those. There's not a lot of sort of relief on the sculpt as well, so you do have to sort of not freehand it, but you can't really rely on the sculpt to guide you. It does need you to be true to the pattern, as it were. And onto the metallics. I'm using true metallics here. I'm using lead belcher from Citadel, but you use obviously any of your typical gunmetal colours. Picking out some of those buckles and details, and obviously the parts of the weapons. And then just flat brown here, or any sort of brown, Mornfang brown, anything sort of medium brown to pick out those wooden areas. Shabdy bone in this case. We're going to get the laces on the side of the gaiters. We're going to use a wash shortly, so they look quite stark at the moment, but the wash will just bring that down a notch and bring it together with the rest of the outfit. These are nicely raised, so the brush just catches the relief of the sculpt there quite nicely. So for the wash on the green areas, I'm using a combination of Agrax Earthshade and Poxwalker. So this is a green and a brown wash. And I'm using roughly 50-50 to obviously retain a green colour in the shadows, but to just allow some of the brown to come through as well, just to improve the contrast there and really make those crevices and creases stand out. This will go in all of the dark green areas and across the webbing as well. We will be going back with some highlights, so this may sort of darken the model initially, but we're going to bring those raised areas back. So the webbing on the helmets there really lend themselves to a wash. Null oil, or again any other sort of dark, dirty shade. This is just to bring down the metallic colours, make them look a little bit more grimy, and just fill in the cracks and crevices. So I'm using Reichland Flesh Shade here by Citadel because that's what I have, but you could use Flesh Wash from Army Painter. I think it's a pretty standard and well-known sort of flesh shade. So we're dry brushing the trousers with the original base colour Japanese uniform mixed with a little bit of yellow, just catching those raised areas. And then for the green, again, is the original colour mixed with yellow, just to raise the value, but not desaturate the model too much, hence we're using yellow as opposed to white. Just take our time with this, really small amount on the brush, and just light passes over. So with the skin, we'll now go back, obviously all the washes are well and truly dry. We'll go out and pick out those raised areas, the fingers, the areas facing upwards, such as the top of the hand there, and then into the face as well. Trying to highlight cheekbones, nose, chin, jawlines, and ears where they're visible. We'll also get the eyes as well. Again, they're not always visible or open in all cases. So to highlight the German uniform, I've used the original German uniform colour mixed with a small amount of a light grey. Happy for this one to desaturate slightly because there's a real strong bluish hue to the original colour, which I think will carry through here, and it won't just look like a grey sort of boring uniform. So the webbing on the German Grenadiers is a lot more elaborate. They've obviously got these sort of trench coats on as well. Some of them have. So again, we're just using a light brown to pick out sort of all of those visible areas. Fair bit to work through here, but just grind through it, and you can use the relief of the sculpt to just glide the edge of the brush along, and not relying so much on the point of the brush, but just catching it along the edges, particularly the upper edges that face the light source, and in this case sunlight. So I'm going for a very sort of classical, simple base with a light green flock and some PVA glue. It's an army painter. A little bit of water through the glue just to make it flow and brush on easier, and a dip. Knock the excess off. Okay, so our last job here is just to paint the ruined farmhouse. So again, I'm going in with the airbrush for speed. With a dark grey colour I mixed from coal black and neutral grey, and then in with some ivory on the render, what's left of the render. I'm going to tidy those edges up with a brush later on. I'm just doing this for speed and to get a nice smooth coat on there, particularly with those paler colours. Much easier than a brush, but you can absolutely do this with a brush. Just using a little bit of kitchen paper to mask off, undercoat this area because we'll use a little bit of contrast paint, which will benefit from a light undercoat. Just using the ivory still, it's close enough to white to get the effect that we want. So while we're waiting for that to dry, we will use some Chablis bone or any sort of pale cream colour for a good dry brush to pull out the detail on all the stonework across the model. What we will also do now, we'll add a little bit of white to that mixture. Once we've gone over the entire building, we'll add a little bit of white to the mixture and do a very light brush on the uppermost corners. And almost overdo it a little bit, because we're going to add a wash which will bring it back down and help it all blend together. So we'll almost overdo this. You can see there it's quite bright now, but the wash will balance it out and bring it all together. So Nuln Oil again, but any dark coloured wash that isn't too strong. If it's too strong, you know, dilute it down. I find this is just about right, straight out the pot. You can go back over, so you'll see that's quite heavy, so we go back over and wick it away until we get the desired effect that we want. So back to that contrast paint, wild wood on the wood sections, just gives us a little bit of highlight showing through, and then some dirty down moss. Again, completely optional. You can use a little bit of green paint here if you prefer. I just quite like the effect this has. Just some of the corners near to the floor where the likes of moss, algae and things like that may have accumulated. You can see at the base, the sort of bottom sort of sections of the building as well, I've left more of the wash on, almost to emulate the spatter from rain when it falls and hits the mud and it spatters up against the bottom sections of the building. So here we're just going back and tidying where the airbrush oversprayed. And here's our finished models. So from someone who usually builds Games Workshop models, and these do feel different. It's a nice challenge. They're a little bit small for my fat fingers, but actually really satisfying to paint and to see them come together. The starter rules, I think, are great. The way you can just start off building and painting a few models at a time until you get up to that final mission and you've got your whole box set ready for you. I think this is a great way in to bolt action for about 6 or 7 hours worth of work in this case, but obviously you can push that in either direction, either just keeping it simple and base coating and washing, or go really all out on your detail. It really is up to you. And obviously there's lots of options to expand your armies. So thanks again to Bulwark Games for letting me loose on their demo copy. And if you enjoyed watching, give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of what we do, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.